before we really start kicking off. But if you started viewing already, it's been a long week. So let's just crack open the Chenin, the first wine, the Klippenkop Chenin Blanc, just to get things started and have a little sip before we wait for a few more people to join in. Hi Rory, hi Charlotte. Excellent. So how's everyone doing this week? Has it been the same or the same? Back at home, doing our best to just chill out and not do too much, which is pretty nice way to be, really. So hey Dan, perfect. Just let viewers get up a bit because I know we've got quite a few people with wine at home. The wines we're actually tasting, and it'd be really great to also see if you don't have the wine that we're tasting. It would be great to hear what you're tasting at home as well. Brilliant. Hi Florence. Hi Tim. So, hi Robbie. I think we'll get up to 150 and then we'll really kick things off. So just for everyone as you're joining, I've already opened my Chenin, the first wine, but I thought have a sip before we sort of get going seriously. Brilliant. So we're up to 150. So it's been a bit of a crazy week. Did a tasting with a fantastic winemaker, Ernie Lowson, last night from Germany. He is one of the best ambassadors for German wine in the world. His Rieslings are phenomenal, distributed to over 140 countries. But tonight we've got 3 wines from 3 different regions, 3 different three different countries. So the first wine is the Klippenkop Chenin Blanc from South Africa. We have the second wine, which is the Casas del Bosque Carmenere. And the third wine is the Cascadia Syrah from Yakima Valley in Washington in the US. So before we get started, have a sip of your Chenin and go ahead and open the Casas del Bosque Carmenere because we're going to decant it. I've back with my fancy Cork Pops corkscrew. It is the one where you just have to stick it in and press the button. And oh dear, we have a malfunction. Assistant, I will need a corkscrew, please. So, well, I think I've run out of gas on the old Cork Pops. Yeah, Oliver, no tech issues tonight. We've already started off with the lack of gas in the corkscrew. Chexy, the cork pops is let me down. Back to the trusty old waiter's friend. I think this might explode now. So back to the it's run out of gas. So when we're decanting wine, they're quite young wines, so just be as rough as you like with them. Just get a little bit of air through them. So just stick it upside down in whatever sort of decanter, jug, give it a bit of a swirl, get some air to it, really open up all aromas, flavour profiles come out there. Stick that to one side. And if you've got another litre jug, I'm also going to decant the Syrah, just because I think it will really sort of help it open up a bit. So do exactly the same, stick it up and decant that as well. Very good. Looking forward to coming back to those. And so if you had a couple of questions this week as to what we should be cooking with each of these, and with the Washington State Shiraz, Syrah, Shiraz, same thing, same grape variety. Steak would be perfect. A nice juicy ribeye would be absolutely spot on with that. So back to the first wine. We have a Klippenkop Chenin Blanc from South Africa. So Chenin Blanc is one of the most versatile grape varieties in the world. It can be made from very dry and sparkling to very lusciously sweet and into a dessert wine and everything in between on that spectrum. But tonight we've got one from South Africa, quite a warm region. And as Chenin Blanc is a grape variety that's got quite a high natural acidity, which is that zingy freshness that you taste, and it's all those sort of lime and citrus aromas. It can cope with really high temperatures. It doesn't get too doesn't get too flabby, which is when it's sort of a bit cloying and a bit like you don't want another glass. So Chenin Blanc, grown in Robertson. So Robertson's about 2.5 hours north of Cape Town. Really dry, arid. I mean, at the moment they're having terrible problems with drought. They only get 200 millimetres of rain a year, which, I mean, could happen in an afternoon in most parts of the UK, let alone the wettest parts of the UK. So it's a really it's a wine that's very well balanced. It's got nice acidity, nice fruit profile. So as we're tasting the wines, for the last couple of weeks, I've suggested in the comments, if you're struggling to think, well, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? If you scroll through your keyboard and go along to the fruit emojis, it'd be great to like fire a few emojis across. Is it lemon? Is it kiwi? Is it peach? Is it blossom? I think there's probably a blossom emoji, the Japanese blossom emoji, because you can also get blossom in white wine. So let's give it a bit of a swirl, open up the flavour profile, stick your nose in. Yeah, so Charlotte, exactly, apple. So Chenin Blanc has a very, an acid very similar to apples. It's called malic acid. So unlike Riesling, which would have a much more juicy acid, Chenin Blanc has this crisp, like Granny Smith apple. Always the aubergines and always Callum. So, and on the palate, or as we say in your mouth, it's all that carries through. I think it's all brings that sort of very green Granny Smith. Also a bit of yellow apple, verging on pear. Yeah, Tony, I think you're right with that pear. Maybe even a bit of stone fruit, and to get that sort of bit of nectarine, that sort of unripe nectarine. Gooseberry. Yeah, a bit of gooseberry. I like these emojis, Georgie. That's smart. So also a bit of stone fruit. And talking of stones, we have a very special guest this evening who is joining us from Scotland. It is a 2-time Scottish strongest man and the world record holder for the Atlas Stones. If, like me at Christmas, you're obsessed with the gym, you'll have been watching the World's Strongest Man competitions, and you'll know that these the Atlas Stones they're 5 big stones. I think they range from about 100 kilograms to 130 kilograms, and they are They range from 100 kilos to 130 kilos, and you have to lift them up onto a platform in the quickest time possible. And joining us from Scotland, himself, the Albatross, Tom Stoltman, twice Scottish strongest man. So, Tom, how's it going?
Yeah, great. Yourselves? How are you? You all right?
Very good. So you got the wine at home as well? Are you tasting along?
Yeah, having a wee bit. I don't want to get too drunk.
So are you still managing to train in isolation? Are you,
yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by a gym, so they send whatever equipment I need to my house, and we've got a private gym as well. Myself and brother have got a private gym, so we're like 5 minutes from the house, so we're just there as well. So yeah, I'm lucky.
And just 250 kilo stones lying in the back garden. Is that what's the manhood stone? That's 273 kilos. Is that right?
Yeah, so the stone I lifted was a 273 kilogram world record. So.
That is some serious stones. Tell me, what did you like the Chenin? Did you get a bit? I've already finished my first.
Yeah, I had a.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wine's nice. It's nice, really nice.
Good. Are you a big white fan, red fan? What was it?
I usually go for the harder stuff, but when I'm chilling out, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, cheers, mate. Great to speak to you,
cheers.
and enjoy. Keep the training up. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks,
cheers.
Tom.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Tom Storm, everyone. What a legend. I mean, that is if I had 250 kilo stones in my back garden, I know who I'm ringing. I know it's a bit of a long way up to north of Inverness, but I'm sure he'd make the journey down. Anyway, if anyone's got any questions on the wine, I'd love to if you just fire them into the question box, it's a bit easier because I can't always see all the comments going past. But yeah, so as I said, Chenin Blanc, normally found in the Loire Valley, from Vouvray, which can also be made in that sparkling or sweet, or a style very similar to this. It's yeah, very, very well balanced. It will go really, really well with a white fish, maybe like a Dover sole with creamy cheese, or Rob, yeah. So Dover sole, creamy sort of cheese sauce, something maybe even if you're being really fancy, lobster. What's it called? When you have cheesy lobster, is that Mornay lobster? Someone could tell me, that would be breathing. Can I drink all 3 bottles? I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. They will keep all weekend. So yeah, pairing this wine with white fish, creamy cheese, or yeah, as something, or on its own, or shellfish would be great. Perfect. So I think we might move on to, that's it, Charlotte, lobster thermidor. Yeah, thanks everyone. Actually, that's I've got a cacophony of thermidors, and my mind is pretty tricky. So I've got a couple of questions here. Let's see what we can. So would you serve this wine at room temperature or chilled? I would definitely serve this wine a little bit chilled, but not ice cold, because of the nice full body of this wine. It would be probably a bit, it would hide too much of that aroma if you serve it too cold. So let's see what else we've got. This is my favorite. How big is your hat collection? Well, tune in next week to see hat number 4. That's really cheesy, isn't it? Is Robertson near Stellenbosch? Yeah, it's talking of proximity of wine regions, South Africa is possibly the best place, again, in the world to visit wine regions, because you can get nearly to every single wine region within 2.5 hours. So it's probably about an hour and a half from Stellenbosch. I'm sure someone, I think Lizanne might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's not too far, a bit further north, bit more in the sort of continental climate. This is a question from, yeah, the answer is yes. Anyway, so we move on to the next wine. So first of all, we've got the Carmenère. So the Carmenère is a grape variety that originates from the Gironde in France, which is sort of the Dordogne, southeast of Burgundy, southeast of Bordeaux, and also a grape variety that's actually in a lot of Bordeaux wines. It's quite widely planted in Bordeaux. So I think I tried this wine the other night straight out the bottle, and having not decanted it, which is why I thought we should really decant it this evening. I think it really opens up that fruit aroma. Again, so if you've got any comments on this, just pop it into the questions, or pop it into the comments of the fruits that you might be tasting. So Carmenère was originally mistaken for Merlot in Chile, and it was called Merlot Chileno. And it was only till about 1994 that they realized that it wasn't Merlot, and it was in fact Carmenère. And since then, they've really made it their calling card as their red wine. So you might think of Malbec being synonymous with Mendoza and Argentina and steak. Sorry, Dougie, that's correct. So this is the Casas del Bosque Carmenère. I should slow down. I'm really ramping things up a bit fast. So Carmenère, originally in Chile, brought into the Chile in the 19th century, I think, by Hispanic settlers. Retails around £10–11. As I said, confused originally with Merlot. And this is grown in the Rapel Valley, so slightly more inland, if inland you can get in Chile. It's it's a fantastically long country. I think it's 2 times the length of Italy, and very, very narrow. So you're always between the Andes and the sea, and so by the sea you get a very a cooling Humboldt current from the ocean, which helps keep freshness in grapes. So you need warmth during the day to ripen your grapes, but you also need the grapes to be able to rest at night, which allows them to keep a nice, vibrant acidity, juicy fruit. Oh, I like Yamarune is a nice descriptor, Holly. Thanks. So, oh, I haven't even tasted it yet. So on the nose, I get a lot of that red, verging on red, black fruit, maybe a bit of herbaceousness, and tasting. I also get a bit of that like herby tomato leaf, or if you ever open vine tomatoes and you rub the stalk a bit and you smell the stalk, you get a lot of this it happens a lot in sort of herbaceous where in herbaceous red wines when they grow with a cooling influence. You get this nice like tomato leafy, tomato stalk, but also that sort of red plum and damson. They're the yeah, tomato. Yeah, that's taste some chili. Yeah, I think it would go really well with some spicy food. Ah, sexy wine we've got. Not sure about broccoli, but let's see. Where's this? So terroir mainly is it's the warming. It's because of its latitude. It's quite a warm area, but also because of the cooling ocean breeze, you get the remaining freshness. So Carmenere actually ripens very, very late in compared to a lot of other grape varieties. So about 4 or 5 weeks later than Merlot. And what that does is it allows the grapes to ripen longer and develop more flavour within that time. And then the cooling ocean breeze helps with retaining that like juicy freshness. But yeah, Rapel's a little bit warmer than say Casablanca, a little bit higher in altitude. So it's actually a very good place to grow inexpensive but high quality red wines because it's easy to farm, quite fertile, but has a really nice temperature, a diurnal temperature, which helps with the freshness and ripeness. Let's have a few more. Eating this, so this would be perfect with spag bol. That sort of tomatoey juiciness, bit of chili, a bit of that greasiness also goes well because it's got quite a nice acidity as red wines go. With that freshness, it's not too big, it's not too juicy, but it retains that good freshness. Let's go for one more question and then see where we are with. So a little bit about the winemaking. So most of this, if you talk about winemaking in general, a lot of people will wonder what is the point in oaking a wine? What is the point in fermenting in stainless steel? What does that all mean, really? Well, if you think of stainless steel as primary fruit, you're very sort of juicy, aromatic fruit, essentially. And anything that's fermented in oak is verging on that sort of like clove spice, a bit of charriness, bit of just wood smoke or cigar box. And so this has half been fermented in stainless steel and half been fermented in oak, but only in sort of third or fourth fill oaks. So that third or fourth fill oak doesn't really add that huge, charry, planky, like barbecued nature to the wine. But it does add a sort of nice roundness to it. So we've got some other people, and while we're enjoying this wine, I'd like to introduce you to, oh, I can't work out this. Janine, yeah, what time is it? It's 10 to 8. So I'd like to introduce you to B and her mother, Serena. So Serena is a tablescape architect. She designs the table for the... Good evening.
Hi.
How are we doing?
We're very good.
Well. How are you?
Very well. Did you enjoy the first 2 wines?
Oh my God, we're just loving them, aren't
Loving
we?
them, absolutely loving them. Not much left of one of them, I'm afraid.
Which one? Which one have you preferred of the 2?
I think I preferred the white.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I find that name quite challenging. Clip Cuppa.
Clip and Cop. It's
Brilliant. I don't know who.
I just thought I'd finished the bottle there, and I thought I realised, I've actually decanted it.
Why has it got that name?
So Clip and Cop is an Afrikaans word for a head, which is kop, and klippen, which is a stone. So it's like stone head.
Right.
Yeah, it's and the little houses you see, the houses on there, is very Cape Dutch. So Cape Dutch being Dutch settlers around the Cape. This was the sort of style of agriculture, architecture that they.
I'm loving the bottle as well. I mean,
Thank you very much.
Apart from the wine, of course.
So, Bia, your sofa is very much on trend, considering I think
as
everyone.
Are my trousers. As are my trousers.
Oh, and the trousers.
It's double leopard season.
It's the
Leopard's
leopard.
back.
It's the
It's
leopard
back.
lounge. We've slightly
very,
overdone the
very
leopard.
much on trend with the everyone's watching Tiger King.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they'd be very happy here.
So, Serena, will you explain a little bit about what you do designing tables? Tablescaping was a complete new thing to me recently.
Yeah,
so.
well, I mean, I think at this point in our lives, in everyone's lives, it's actually table therapy. I'm way overlaying, just as sort of a matter of getting through these rather long days. But yeah, no, I think everyone's eating at home, drinking at home. No one's going to restaurants. So every day, we make a bit of a thing about our table.
Yeah.
And I mean, quite often the children can't get to the table for all the plates. But yeah, no, it's fun. It really is, and it's a way to sort of express your creativity. And yeah, I'm hopefully writing a book on it as well.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
I'm so
always good.
impressed.
Yeah, I'm really mainly mother though. That's my main pastime. Mothering.
Yeah.
So have you? The big question I'm sure everyone's now wondering is: have you made the table or laid the table for this evening?
I have.
May we see?
Well, we could take you there.
Yes,
Maybe
please.
we-
Come on, we're all dying to.
The thing is that it is leopard, isn't it?
It's leopard. It's leopard. We'll take
Well,
you
as
there.
you say,
Okay, we'll
very
take you
on
there.
trend.
Okay. Forgive the house guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pizza's on the menu this evening.
Very good. That would pizza. Everyone would go fantastically with the Carmenere.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
that
it's
tomato base, rich
Yeah.
salami, maybe some rockets, that herbaceousness. All of that goes well, really well.
It's COVID-19 free.
There we go.
Look,
So talk me through the each individual element of the of your table.
oh, what would you like to know?
Well, just
Yeah.
why is everything
What's
where
it
it is?
about?
I really believe that leopard is a neutral. I know it looks a bit busy, so we've done leopard on with another pattern with chocolate, some pink bunnies for Easter to continue the Easter theme.
Of
Pink
course.
glasses, the odd little pink napkin, and yeah, this is just our pizza dinner for tonight.
That is where are you going to put all the pizzas though, apart from on your plates?
Don't be silly, Elliot. That's a silly question. And we probably, actually dough balls, the side plates are dough balls.
Yeah, over there. Bit of garlic dip here and there. It's going to be great.
Very good.
Yeah.
So should we move on to the third wine together? I think it's,
Yeah.
So everyone at home, the third wine is the Cascadia Syrah from Yakima Valley. It's and actually we've got a friend joining me who I went to Washington State probably 5 years ago for the first time, and was taken on this trip by Doug, who hopefully will at some point join and say hi. So the next one is the Cascadia.
Oh, wrong one.
That one, Mum.
So I'm going to pour the Cascadia into mine now.
Oh yeah, less keen on the label, but that's right.
Serena.
Sorry, Elliot.
Can't win them all.
You can't teach her.
No.
Said, come on.
Okay, from Yakima Valley.
Yeah, so the Yakima Valley is just outside, outside of Seattle,
Right.
in Washington State. So, and we've got Doug who's going to come on and tell us all about Washington State. So I'm going to love you and leave you, ladies, and I will speak soon. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Brilliant. So all the way from, I think he's probably in Seattle at the moment. At home, I think he lives in Seattle, but Washington State, Does Marshall, everyone?
Hey guys, how you doing?
How are we doing?
Oh, a world away, but miss me, Elliot. How you doing, man? I've been watching you
I know.
live.
I mean, I saw you like 3 weeks ago before this really lockdown, didn't we?
Yeah, we got the last party in. I think that was pretty successful.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of talking, but maybe
Yeah.
you want to just introduce Washington State in general. What's it all about? What's so special about Washington?
Yeah, definitely. Lots of things, man. It was a lot of fun bringing you out here, and obviously it's a great time. You know, anytime we get to introduce somebody to Washington for the first time, and so that group of like 50 people all over the world really got to see some special stuff. So the wine you have right there, you know, from Washington State, Yakima Valley, our first AVA, you know, founded back in the 80s. I think it was 1983. It's a you know a pretty important winery as well, and vineyard that you have there. You're working with Airfield, right, for that one?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah, Airfield. Yeah.
Cool. So that's a great. No, go ahead.
Sorry. No, so what you are. So tell everyone at home what you do for Washington State. How you're spreading the good word, aren't you? That's
yeah. I'm here spreading the gospel of Washington State. That's for sure.
But if you give everyone a quick rundown of what the great growing regions of Washington are like how what are the main influencing factors in Washington, in Yakima Valley, or perhaps, or in general?
Yeah, definitely. Just like anywhere else, you know, the climate and the soils really are the keys to Washington State. People think about Washington, they think of Seattle, they think of rain and you know, greenery and the Space Needle and Sleepless in Seattle and all this stuff. But really, yeah, exactly. Our growing region is a completely different world. We have these huge Cascade Mountain ranges that create a crazy rain shadow effect. So by the time you get over to the Yakima Valley and the growing region in Washington State, you're effectively in kind of a high plains desert. Really low, rainfall, really high temperatures during the growing season, kind of a much more area of extremes. And so you get, you know, really high temperatures. It's a very hot growing region, which is why you're seeing things like Cabernet Sauvignon. You know, Syrah is especially popular in the UK and something that's pretty special to us here. You know, Merlot, but it's also a really big region. People don't really think about that. And, you know, the fact that the region is so large, we also have areas where you've got, you know, Chardonnay and Riesling and cooler climate grapes growing as well. And so it's a wide space. Doesn't that wine have something about the Missoula floods on the back of it?
Yeah, exactly. So so yeah, of course. So just quickly, if anyone's tasting along at home, throw some emojis in, get some fruits down in the comments. Tell us what you're smelling, tasting, or describe it. This is obviously a lot different to the Carmenere, which is a lot more sort of red fruit. This Syrah's, and going back to that sort of desert style growing environment, Shiraz or Syrah can be a really vigorous vine when it's growing. And so being a desert, it really helps control that vigor, and so creates really sort of dense fruit. That's sort of a big calling card of Washington, being able to control the vine's behavior by controlling the water flow or being able to feed as and when. And a lot of there's huge research going into viticulture and vinification techniques in Washington, isn't it? What's the research institute in the middle, basically, of the...
Definitely. So we have what is argued to be, which is currently the world's most technologically advanced wine science center in Richland, Washington. So that's the St. Michel Wine Estates, Washington State University Wine Science Center, and they're doing all kinds of different research and technology in order to just learn how to make Washington and the world better at growing grapes, understand how to manage irrigation, understand how to manage pest control, you know, understand all these different things and how to do them better.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, and this is, I think, being a desert, people think that's a bad thing, but actually it allows you to help control every single aspect of the growing region, and actually control the vine as you want it.
Totally right. No, totally right. And that's, you know, going back to the Missoula floods, that topsoil in Washington is this like really fine windblown loess. You throw it in the air and it disappears like powdered sugar. That is super low water holding potential. And so when we do irrigate and have that control, it's not like they're sitting there with wet vines or roots. Like we really have specific control over how much water those vines get, and it gives us a lot of advantages when it comes to creating the wines that we're looking for.
Yeah. So going back to the Missoula floods. It's the big thing. I mean, it's a little bit like Ice Age, isn't it? I say a little bit like it. Pretty much.
It exactly is Ice Age. It also is a great drinking game because when you come out to Washington, like you're going to hear it about 10,000 times, and so by the time
it's a bit like Roxanne, Red Light, Missoula floods.
Exactly. So no, the Missoula floods are definitely like that's the sex appeal of the Washington. Like if there is sex appeal for soil, that's definitely it.
I think we've mentioned Missoula floods like 10, 15, 20 times, but not
I hope
actually
you guys are
explained what they are yet.
Exactly.
So basically, there was a big ice dam like north of Washington, which held glacial water, and every now and again, so there's mixed theories. Some people say it happened once. Some people say it happened a few times, and that it's still. I think that's now the consensus.
Yeah,
a few times.
People pretty much believe that it's like 30 to 50 different times that this happened. Sure. But
so over the Ice Age, big ice dam blocking a valley, containing all sort of rich minerals and soils, and sort of 30 to 50 times over the whole of the Ice Age, the ice dam would break and they would flood, the Missoula floods, through the whole Washington state area, down a bit into Oregon, spreading all this very, very fine glacial dust all over the valley floor, which is this super fertile, super fine, well-drained soil, which is essentially fantastic for growing grapes.
It works for us so far. No, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I never knew that I'd be a geology nerd, but turned into one, once you enter the wine industry, and it definitely works out pretty well. What do you think of the wine?
I am loving it, but what's more important, what's everyone else at home drinking it? What does everyone else think? I think the thing for me with Washington is the balance of this super ripe, juicy fruit, but yet a freshness of acidity. And I think that's exactly like what should be Washington's calling card, which is a nice, ripe, and I've been for the last couple of weeks talking about this sort of fruit spectrum of like getting to the end of that ripeness of fruit spectrum whilst maintaining that like fresh, vibrant acidity. And I think that is Washington's calling card. It's a lot of areas around the world are trying to achieve this, but in Washington it seems like it's a very nice, easy place with all the right growing conditions to sort of manipulate a horrible word, but it does it's easy to manipulate.
It's direct management. We just have a lot more control, and that's a fair word, but it's totally true.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, how are you keeping, Doug, in general? You're isolating at home in Seattle, can't even pop out for your Starbucks.
I'm quarantining well. I decided to ditch the city for a little bit. I went out to my girlfriend's place in Eastern Washington because I do not have a yard in the city, and it is great when you're in quarantine.
Yard. Let's just translate for everyone in the UK. That's your back garden. Anyway.
So,
Doug, thank you so much. Do you want to say a bit about the new initiative that you're doing with the Ving Global? Yeah,
definitely. So logging on here as SIP Global, it's a new campaign that we're launching in Washington, and honestly, we think it's something that's important around the world. A lot of the hospitality industry is struggling right now. Restaurants are shut down. They're doing a little bit of work doing delivery and curbside pickup kind of stuff. And we're just trying to get you to pay attention to that, support your local businesses, keep them open because the wine industry needs them when we get out of there. And also, we need them as well. So want to keep businesses open. And we're going to be going live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. with Jamie Good. He's going to be interviewing. He's going to be interviewing Bruce Wallner out in Toronto. So log on to Jamie or follow SIP Global on Instagram, and we'll all be up live and chatting about what we're doing.
Fantastic. Well, Doug, thank you. And for everyone, Doug joined very last minute as I was like, I forgot to ask Doug.
I was in the middle of a conference call. I'm like, I think.
Yeah, but come on, some things are more important, Doug.
Exactly. So,
Anyway,
hey, thanks for having me on.
I'll be sure to check in. But thank you so much for joining. I love you and leave you.
All right. See you later, man.
Thanks, mate. Bye. Right, I think we'll answer a few questions. Thanks, everyone, for your comments. Let me find a few questions. This is a good question. And I actually meant to start on this, but I actually got very carried away. So Syrah as a grape variety is quite a small berry. And why is that relevant? Basically, small berries have a lot of skin to juice ratio, and the more skin to juice ratio you have, the more rich and flavoursome a grape variety it can act. It's a very, very vigorous grape, so it can't really be grown in fertile soil, because otherwise it grows big, long, gangly leaves and shoots and everything, but doesn't grow very good grapes. So the more foliage a vine grows, the less actually grapes and juicy grapes are grown. So a vine's a weed. Its main purpose in life is to reproduce and leave the place that it currently is. And in order to do that, it needs to create juicy, juicy grapes for birds and other animals to eat the seeds, walk away, and drop them somewhere else out the other end. And so, yeah, Shiraz is very good at doing that, but it's actually quite a good plant in general. And so it ends up being very, very vigorous and doesn't end up producing good, tasty fruit. So it grows in areas where it's not very fertile soils, or the best grapes are grown in not very fertile soils, like Northern Rhone, and in it grows really well in Australia, of course, where it's sort of very poor fertile soil. But yeah, it's obviously known around the world. The Rhone is probably its heartland, and Côte Rôtie are probably some of the most famous Syrah, Shiraz grown in the world. Let's see if there's a few more questions. Oh no, that's sorry everyone. If anyone wants to just drop how you're tasting, is Washington a major producer? This is a great one. So Washington is actually the second biggest state producing wine in the US. However, it's only 10% of California. So whilst they're really growing and there's a lot of research going in, I think there's 2 or 3 companies that dominate nearly 50% of the Washington state production. And it, as we were saying, it's literally a desert. So you have to put in a lot of infrastructure, a lot of watering facilities, and a lot of effort has to go into producing wine in Washington. But it is fantastic. And where you can get this in London. So this is just arrived last week. Currently, I think there's only a few retailers, literally. So Pull the Cork in Battersea currently stock this. I think it's around £16 a bottle, something like this. Let's ask a few more questions.
How's COVID-19 affected wine?
What wine glasses do you recommend? So I don't know how if I can sort of... what wine glass do you recommend? Anything with a nice thin stem and something that frames your wine really well. So I've got currently Jancis Robinson did a collaboration with the London studio called Richard Brendan. This is where these glasses are from. But I'm a massive fan also of Zalto. Big thin stem, very delicate. And I for some reason, it's like if you ever try and drink water out a tea mug or coffee mug, it doesn't quench your thirst somehow. It doesn't quench your thirst. So the thinner your glass, the more you enjoy your wine, and the better the experience. Nearly everywhere in the world can make Syrah. That's a good question and easy. No, we're not going to take the hat off. Sorry, there's a few silly questions in here. So Doug is one of the best. Doug works for the Washington State Wine Board, so he is very, very knowledgeable in Washington State, and he's very knowledgeable, and he spreads Washington State good news of Washington State around the world. So I wonder if we just say goodbye to Serena and B. Are they still here? Probably already getting stuck into their pizza. Happy. So Charlie, you say happy. I would say happy birthday to your friend for tomorrow, but you haven't left their name. But happy birthday. I think it was Carol Baskin, actually. Cool Cats and Kittens. So I'm just having a look for a few more questions. Here, this is a good one. So what do the legs mean on wine, and why is it relevant, if at all? So the legs end up being the, oh, yeah, look, you can see straight in there. Yeah, so this is the alcohol, but it's not just alcohol. There's also glycol, other other compounds in the wine. Yeah, you can look at it and think it's got high alcohol, and that's why someone who 50 or 60 years ago might say, oh, look at the legs on that, because 50 or 60 years ago, they were judging wine by the level of alcohol, because before global warming has had a huge effect. Not only global warming, but also viticultural techniques have had a huge effect on how wine is being produced. And it's allowed wine to and grapes to ripen to a level that is enough to ferment and get a nice high alcohol. So back when they didn't have these viticultural techniques, they were purely reliant on very, very good, very warm vintages to ripen grapes. And so that's why people might say, look at the legs, because it's got high alcohol, and they've managed to ripen the grapes to the level that they did. Christine, this wine, the Syrah, retails around 15 or 16 pounds, I think. You should definitely support all your local wine shops in lockdown. Don't go to other big chain supermarkets. Chenin Blanc is just the white grape variety. So with Chenin Blanc, Chenin Blanc is one of the only Chenin grape varieties, but with Pinot, there's a number of different mutations. So you have Pinot Blanc at one end, Pinot Gris, Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir, Pinot Precoce, Pinot Madeleine, and they're all part of the same family. So it just helps recognize the individual mutations of each one of the grapes. Which one is your favorite? I think the Cascadia Syrah has got to be my favorite. It's I'm not a huge fan of big heavy reds, but this is fantastic with if you had a lamb or a steak or something really tomato-based casserole. It's that freshness and vibrancy that's not too cloying on your palate. And although it is 14% alcohol, it's oh, that's a very good question. What's your thoughts between natural wine and otherwise classed as normal? There's a very long discussion that can be had about natural wine, and James in Pull the Cork is much more of he's much more tuned into the natural wine scene than I am. But we've had a few conversations around natural and normal, and actually what we both decided on was there are lots of people who are making wine. Why classify it? Because as long as you are mindful in the techniques that you're using, mindful in the techniques in your vineyard, and only really using control of any kind, be it organic or inorganic, and as long as you're mindful in using these controls to manipulate the vines the way you want them, I think everything is fair. As long as you've really thought about it, it's okay. But also natural winemaking, you end up kind of watching the wine rather than making the wine, because making wine is about turning the grapes into something that you really want to drink and that's something that's enjoyable. Whereas natural wine, you might end up leaving the wine and not really focusing on the product. You end up focusing too much on the process and not enough on the product. So whilst natural and normal is a huge debate. I don't think it's the be all and end all saying, I'm only going to drink natural wine, I'm only going to drink organic wine. If you know winemakers that are making things in a very mindful, very thought out process, it's fantastic. Right, I think we'll take a couple more questions and then I think Instagram might time us out. I'm very happy that it hasn't kicked us out every 8 minutes like last night. Chilling red wines, if it's all to do with the flavor profile and tannin. If you've got a high tannin red wine, then don't chill it because it really accentuates the tannin, and it really accentuates the tannin and hides too much of the fruit. So don't chill it unless it's got a very fruit juicy content with very little tannin. The year of production, huge. This is another massive question. What year's the year of harvest have? It's like saying to a human being, how good was your summer? If you had an epic summer, you've been to 3 or 4 festivals, the sun was out the whole time, you got to wear flip-flops and shorts the entire time, you think that summer was epic. And the same happens with wine. If it's a very good growing season, then the wine will, of course, be better. It's the grapes that you can grow can be healthier. They can have a better balance. They just generally had a better time. And also during the beginning of the season in spring, if you've got a good spring and no frost, then the yields are high. Because as soon as we start getting into the next few weeks, everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, the buds on the vines are going to start appearing. So come early April, mid-June, everything's going to start coming out of the vines. You know, if you see a big wooden vine, it looks dead. It's not, it's just winterized. And soon the little green shoots will come out. But if frost occurs during that time, when the little green shoots are still very youthful, they can be burnt off and the vine will really struggle to produce its full yield for that year. And then throughout the summer, you want a nice warm, not too wet growing season and a not too wet harvest period. So yeah, hugely. And it's not just the weather as well. It's right, let's have one more question that I can find with so will grape harvest be affected by lockdown? In some countries, they're not allowing to pick. It's like South Africa have finally allowed everyone to pick, but I think the citrus harvest will be even more effective. Happy birthday, Mike, for tomorrow. We were talking about virtual wine tasting. I found it quite amusing because whilst we're meeting virtually, a lot of people are tasting the wine, so we're not. We're still tasting wine, and I think lots of people are tasting wine at home. So they're real life wine tasting, chatting virtually. Can I explain what tannin is? So tannin is a compound that is found in the skins of grapes, in the seeds of grapes, and in the stalks of grapes. And I've used this analogy a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Has anyone bitten into a banana skin? I just want to see one banana to see someone has bitten into a banana skin. So if anyone has bitten into a banana skin, if everyone has bitten into a banana skin, you'll know that it dries your mouth out completely, and that is tannin. Also, if you've left your tea bag in too long, that's tannin, and it makes your teeth really, really furry. So tannin can also, there's a lot of different types of tannin. Banana skin is very, very green, and the sort of riper skin grape tannin is very, very ripe. So it might feel a bit round and plump. Yeah, thanks, Leanne. So if you can have lots of tannin, but it's very, very round and plump and juicy, or you could have very little tannin and it could be quite green and astringent. Those two can equate to the same sort of feeling in your mouth. So I'd love to know which one everyone's favourite was. Of the three, I think I'd go with the Cascadia. Evening.
We're back.
We're back.
Hold
So
on,
which
Bea,
was your favourite of the three, Serena?
Bee's wanting it to be all about her. Sorry.
That's quite all right.
I think probably the white. I love the white. In fact, my husband said, who's just left the room, no, Bea, you've got to have the camera up, otherwise it looks fat. Fatter. My husband said he'd like to buy the white. Thought it was really, really, really good. How much does that retail at?
Right about £8, £7-8. It's
really,
it's
really
actually
nice.
So that's it for everyone who might have just started watching the Clip and Cop Chenin Blanc. It's a really really well balanced. It's because of the way that they can grow wine in South Africa. They can grow it quite well, get some really healthy fruit, but very inexpensively. So it works fantastically well. Yeah. Very, very well balanced as well.
Oh, good. And what about you, Bea?
My favorite was the first red.
The first red, the Carmenere. I think a lot of people have said the Carmenere. I'll have to scroll back through the comments and see who's which.
Yeah, we're loving
very
that.
Nice. Very good. So what's on your pizza toppings this evening?
Let me tell you, it's quite interesting. So we're doing a complete COVID-19 free delivery.
Yeah,
no
so
contact.
it's like no contact option.
Yeah. And they're about to arrive, and they're going to drop the pizzas 6 feet away from us.
Very good.
Big day. Yeah.
Domino's or local independent?
Domino's.
Yeah, I mean,
very good.
Sponsor us.
If you're going to do pizza, you might as well go full on.
There's no point in half doing a pizza.
No, exactly. And actually, you know what you need for pizza? You need something big and heavy like the Cascadia.
Which one would you recommend?
I would take. It depends if you gone for Mighty Meaty or have you gone for the Veggie Deluxe.
So we've mixed it up a bit. So we've gone.
I'm doing margarita.
So we've got tomato, Carmenere.
Yeah, we got a bit of pepperoni passion. Do you know what I'm saying?
Pepperoni passion. I'd again go Carmenere, a bit of meaty gaminess. Yeah, Leia agrees.
And then what else have we got? Oh yeah, we opted one to be a thin base pepperoni as well, and that's it.
Yeah. What are you having for dinner tonight, Elliot?
I've already had my dinner. I had cheese on toast.
Oh, very good.
It's actually a local cheese down from where the so we got the four pillars, the Silent Pool Distillery down in Guildford. There's also a little cheese factory that makes a blue cheese and a it's like a cross between brie and mozzarella. It's quite niche. But it looks like brie, but it melts like mozzarella.
I went to the Newt the other day for the first time.
Yeah. So that's actually owned by a South African. Before lockdown. Babylon store.
And I bought some apple butter. And I've just, sort of therapy again, made about 10 jars of apple butter. Fabulous with cheese. Very nice. Which one of your wines would you suggest if we were just having a cheese dinner?
The cheese. Well, so last night I did a Riesling only tasting.
Right.
And so the best would be the Ertzing of Erzgarten Cabernet we drank last night. But failing that, I would go with the Chenin because you want something with quite high acidity.
Yeah.
The fact that port and cheese is a little bit of a English construction. It's not really the best pairing. I go for something sweet and high acidity with cheese normally, but anyway, I think we've got time for like one or two more questions. I think let's see if there's any directed at you two. We'll see about if there's any tablescape questions that we could.
I don't think I could answer them if there were any.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I think you would, Mum.
I don't think so. But anyway.
Right. There's a couple.
No one's interested. Don't want to know.
Guess what, Mum? It's out.
But there was someone did ask, have you ever, they said, is there such a thing as a sparkling red wine? Have you ever had a sparkling red wine?
No, but I think I lived in Switzerland for a while. There was a very cold, a red wine that we drank that was almost sparkling. Would that be right or not?
Yeah. So there is, there is, they're called the Goat. So it was like, did it come out of a really pressurized barrel? You had to drink it straight away.
I can't remember. It's too long ago.
So no, there is someone asked the question: is there a sparkling red wine? Yeah. So Lambrusco is probably the most famous sparkling red wine in the world, made in Italy. Yeah. So someone's put it just Lambrusco, and then also there's a lot of sparkling Shiraz made in Australia as well. So all the great things.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay,
Guys, I think it's time to wrap up this evening. Thank you
so much
for
having us. Thank you.
joining. And if anyone has any questions at home or wants to just send me messages about wine questions, please do. We've got another wine tasting next week with Gary and Kathy Jordan, who are power couple of the South African industry. So we're tasting through 3 of their wines. So next week is quite a special one. So
yeah, tune in.
Same time next week.
Tune in. Okay, thanks,
Thank
Elliot.
you so much, Lynn.
Bye.
Bye. Fantastic. I think we've got 2 more questions that I know I keep saying 1 or 2 more questions, but it's I feel bad not answering everyone's questions. So chocolate and wine pairing is a really difficult. Chocolate and wine pairing is a very, very difficult one. But there's Rutherglen Muscat is a fortified strong wine, fortified wine aged for a long period of time in northern Victoria, which works perfectly with chocolate. Tastes like Christmas pudding, like minced pies. So finally, I think I'll just do this. So someone said, "Can you teach us your wine tasting technique?" I don't know what I do. I've been doing this probably for 33 years as I've grown up in vineyards, working for a family business. So I swirl this out of habit now. But I guess I did it to really, I saw everyone else do it, so I decided I'd do it, and it looks pretty cool. I swirl it just to open up the aromas, stick your nose in, and it gives you a bit of hint. Most things on the nose should carry through to the palate. So as you stick your nose in, I draw a bit of air through it, but it's not necessary. That's really just to truly examine the wine. It would be like walking up to a painting and like taking a microscope, but actually all you want to do sometimes is just step back and enjoy, which is what you should be doing with wine. So whilst wine tasting is quite interesting, what's actually more interesting is drinking wine, and that's what it's there to be done with. Do I prefer white or red? I normally prefer red, but recently I've been drinking a lot of white wine, a lot of Riesling. Yeah, so thank you so much all for joining. I think we'll sign off now because we're reaching that hour. But if you have missed any questions, please do send them through, because I will answer everything, wine related or otherwise. But yeah, thank you so much and have a great weekend.